So it is Sunday, September 24th in the evening, and we decided we should come on over here and get a couple hours in. And we had a system, a new idea for taking out the seats, and this has arisen because we were using just these things here, and whenever the ratchet would slip, I would gouge and jam my knuckles down into the floor, and I ended up kind of jacking up my middle knuckle on this hand, and it made it kind of hard to even make a fist for a couple days. So it's feeling much better now. But what we did is we went on over to Home Depot and shopped around, and we figured this would probably be the answer. And I think that the reason this is going to be the answer is because, number one, it's corded, so we have lots of great power here. We don't have to worry about, you know, a battery starting to go dead, because some of these bolts down here are seriously stuck, and just because they start moving at first when he's down under the bus holding him, they'll start moving, and by the time you're twisting a bunch of rust up in through the nut and through the inside of the bus or whatever, they'll get really sticky. And this is going to make it easier, and I'm not going to bust my hands up. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I figured with this, things might go a lot faster with us, and we might actually get more than 4 seats out at a time before we get like all tired and everything with it.
Woohoo.
Yeah, so here we go. This is day 4, removing seats and other stuff. If you'll remember right, last time we did get this off, Ronan just took that crazy VCR, 28-pound VCR.
It was ridiculous.
It was nuts.
This was just drilled out the rivets. The bus is a 1999, but that was the best technology that 1988 had to offer.
For sure. It's the killer old. So maybe today we'll even get this one off. But every time we take something out of here, it just gets bigger and bigger. We find more money, yay. And we find more pencils and just, you know, things that little kids have dropped, which is kind of sweet. I mean, we're kind of into the whole schooly thing pretty good. So whenever we find another little treasure, it's sort of sweet. We have a little pile going up there that we'll probably show you sometime, and we have to figure out what to do about getting this heater out of here.
Yeah, those will be a project.
They're gonna be a thing for sure. So yeah,
okay,
here we go, day 4.
Let's get to it.
Yay. How do I didn't reach the bottom of the bus. Oh God, is there not one thing I can do with this bus?
Tell us how you really feel. Hey.
I'm getting really frustrated here. Just give me a minute to try to figure out how the hell I'm gonna thing. It's like way up there. It's just so far up there. I'm glad you're having fun with this, but seriously, it's like I either have to be up there doing the thing where that's not effective for me, really. It's taking so long, and now I can't reach the bottom of the bus. I just don't understand why. Okay.
Take 2.
I still can't reach the bus. I don't care. It's still, just go that way. I have to put some kind of extensions on my arms or something to be able to do we have a tool? Is my question. Do we? I don't think so. Oh. I think just go that way.
So apparently I'm bad at taking breaks.
True story. He's terrible. No idea how to take a break.
So,
this is what it looks like.
This is what we look like. Totally beat the heck out of my arm. So 2 hours in, we tried using the drill, the new fancy 1/2-inch plug-in drill, and on the first bolt, the screw that holds the chuck onto the drill snapped. And then we traded, and to keep her from jacking up her arms, I took the 1/2-inch ratchet and went under the bus, and all the ones that I could do in the middle that I could reach, I did. Some of them, the shank of the screw was too long, so I need a deep set socket. I don't know if we're going to invest in that. We're probably going to just switch and do a box wrench on the bottom and the socket up top. And the back, say, 5 seats, we didn't even realize it until I got under there and got to the back part, are completely inaccessible because of the diesel tank. So there's a diesel tank that runs in between, which I'll take pictures and show you. Runs between and completely blocks all access to the nuts from the bottom, so we're gonna have to just cut those off, and that doesn't sound like a fun thing. Okay, as we've talked about before, we're down to having to grind these out. The gas tank starts about here, and, well, the diesel tank, I should say, and covers up all of these screws, nuts, bolts, whatever. Can't get to them from the underneath. We're going to have to grind them out. Okay, so 4 hours, 45 minutes. We got 4 seats out and 8 seats down the middle of the bolts going through are out and ready to go. We just have to take out the bolts and nuts that are on the little rail on the side. So we went back to using the 1/2-inch ratchet and a box wrench. I used the ratchet on the bottom, and Marie was able to use the box wrench and just hold on the top. That split up as much of that as possible. There did come a point that some of the bolts were longer and we didn't have a deep socket, and or their placement was just screwy enough that I couldn't get to it with the ratchet, because either it was close to a rib or had junk in front of it. The transmission, the exhaust, everything down there is crazy. So I'm kind of jacked up my hand a bit just from banging into stuff down there. Whacked my head a few times. There was much cursing. It's a project.
Hey guys, it is Monday, September 25th, and this is workday 5. We just went out for a really nice dinner, some kind of chilling downtime, and I had put the seats up on Craigslist, and we already have somebody coming to get them, which is killer cool because it was starting to get a little bit cramped inside the storage shed. There's a really large storage shed, but when we started moving seats out and all the seat components and pieces, parts, and everything, it was starting to get really cramped, and we want to go ahead and maintain a certain amount of workspace out there. So yay! So that's really good news. And other sweet news is last night when we were having our little workathon, we managed to loosen up 8 of these seats that are remaining here, and we're getting ready to take them out. And when the guy who wants the seats comes by, he's going to get all the seats that we have loose. He's going to get this here aluminum rack, and he's going to get the one that we have already taken out, which is outside, just on the outside of the bus. So, interesting thing about these seats back here, we can't actually take these out right now, and it's because, as Rona says, they are stuck like Chuck. Meaning, the diesel tank is right under my feet, and it has us blocked for bottom access for the bolts. So, I think what we're going to end up doing is probably bringing a grinder over here and grinding off the tops of the bolts, and then tapping them out from the bottom. Either that or using a nice drill bit, and just drilling them out so that way we can pull these out. And then after that, we'll be able to have probably a look at the floor, which I'm a little bit nervous about. As I said before, each time we pull out one of these bolts, there's a significant amount of rust on it. So we'll see just what kind of condition things are in underneath, you know, the bus. When we take this out, we already know that there's some significant rust damage in the stairway. After you open the door and step on that first step, it's a little smushy. Yep. So we're gonna have a look at that too and see if we need to go ahead and just like weld some more sheet metal in there and then start over, or if any of it's salvageable or what. So that's where we're starting.
Yep. Alrighty. Let's get to it.
That's a lot of space.
Yeah. That took some work.
It did. You worked hard.
So did you.
There it is.
So the plan was to grind out these bolts, and so we got the grinder and did it for 5 minutes for one bolt, and that just really seemed like we were going about it the wrong way. Kind of like when you're doing a puzzle and you think that you're doing it the right way, but you don't exactly know if all the pieces line up right. So the other bolts and the holes were really accessible and pretty easy to get to, just like this. And even though they were hard sometimes and stuck on there, I got pretty used to that idea. And then whenever we got to the diesel tank and the bolts were buried back in there somewhere like that, well, I kind of got stuck in one modality of thinking. At the time, I really did believe that those bolts were totally inaccessible. And it wasn't until I spent 5 minutes grinding on one bolt head and hating that I got down there and started thinking about, is there another way to do this? And rather than looking at it from the bottom, I started looking at things from the side and finding out that I couldn't see where the bolts were, but I could feel where they were. So yet again we exchanged ratchet for box wrench, and I went back under the bus, looking now from the side. And strangely enough, once I knew to look from the side rather than the bottom, some of them were actually really easy to get to. Sure, some of them were a little more difficult, and I couldn't see at all, but with Marie on top, with the ratchet and a breaker bar, we were able to get all of them. The other side was exactly the same routine, and what do you know, we were done. We had emptied out all the seats in the bus. Thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, and following along.